So there is a technique. You can learn from somebody who knows strict curling, and your curl numbers jump dramatically.
Folks, it's December 8th, Friday. We are in the Christmas season, and welcome to Inside Arm Wrestling, the home for all Christmas cheer, I guess. Arm wrestling, fitness, strength, and fitness competitions. Folks, Greg Sharp with you here. It's a Friday morning, December 8th. And you know what, folks? I'm going to take a little bit of social media credit, albeit that it's probably really not warranted. But I do feel that Inside Arm Wrestling made this story a little bit more relevant early off as it becomes more relevant now. And that story, folks, is none other than Rob Vigent Jr. taking on Brandon Allen. We discussed this a few weeks back when we saw Brandon Allen throw up a post on putting a notch in the belt of Rob Vigent early off in his career versus now. And I'll tell you what, folks, it looks like it is official. We did see it, I believe, at the beginning of this past week. Knuckles Up out of New Jersey. The guys, I think it's Jason Merlot and his guys out there, created this super match series called Knuckles Up. And they are on their second, January 6, 2024. And I'm going to step out on a limb, not knowing where most of the card is right now, but seeing this announcement, I think that really the media match of that event is going to be Rob Vigent Jr. versus Brandon Allen. And I think it's more of the media event because both of these two gentlemen are very well received on social media, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Instagram. They definitely have a following, and they're definitely individuals that like to show off different levels of strength and training that gives a really interesting twist to this match. And you know what, folks? I think that social media is going to be the driver of arm wrestling in the future. A lot of people don't see arm wrestling as a individualistic best sport, meaning that it's hard for people to know who the very best of a weight class is internationally, worldwide. We just don't tune in a lot to international arm wrestling, which is really the hub of arm wrestling right now. But we do see quite a bit of domestic arm wrestling simply because social media drives most everything when it comes to these personalities. And even though they are not participating on the world stage in this event, they are participating on a social media stage, which I think makes for a very, very interesting dynamic. And, you know, early off this week, Rob Vigent Jr. threw up his a side view of his arm, certainly a huge side view of his arm. He kind of getting down with the thickness. He tagged Brandon Allen and the High Five Arm Wrestling guys. Honestly, Rob Vigent has an amazing past as a middleweight, a 209 arm wrestler. He looks like he's quite a bit bigger than 209 right now. But if you look, he actually went onto the YouTube channel, his YouTube channel, earlier in the week and put on in the comments, or actually the title, Brandon Allen, I spy your reels. And interesting enough, he actually calls out Brandon Allen. And not so much on an arm wrestling end, but actually calls him out on a strength end, which is a dynamic that Brandon has been known for. I mean, Brandon Allen is a tremendous power lifter, strength competitor. That is how he gained most of his notoriety in the fitness world, by being a fitness competitor, a power lifter competitor, a strongman competitor. And now he's definitely a very sought after trainer of fitness and strength athletes. But he calls him out. He actually calls him out, folks. We saw the video to start the clip. And basically through the video, he says, listen, if you're going to tuck and pin your elbows, if you're going to use your front delts when you're doing strict curls or when you're doing seated double hand barbell curls, the answer for Ravijin is that you're not showing me any strength. And it looks like he grabs a 100-pound dumbbell. And I don't get to see a side view in the video, but it's certainly at least a 75, 80-pound dumbbell. And he puts it on his right leg and basically starts cold without doing any kind of jerking motion, just keeping his delt to the back and using his bicep. And he does a series of 3 or 4 curls from a static position. Very, very impressive bicep strength. And he goes on to say that, listen, if you are looking for an excuse to get in an event or a match with me because you're a great strict curl strength competitor, it's not really impressing me, is what he's basically saying, because you know what? That doesn't translate out well to the table. And folks, you know, if you look at his social media, he actually has an 8-inch cinder block at one point on his Instagram where he shows that it's wet. He's got it face up. He's got it balanced on his hand, and it's balanced in a way that his fingertips is supporting through the middle of the block. Very, very difficult lift, folks. Grab a cinder block and try what Rob is doing. And he shows the control of his wrist and hand strength, something that Brandon has been trying to tout in a lot of his videos. You see Brandon doing a lot of pinch block lifts. You see him doing a lot of his seated curl lifts, his strict curl lifts. But you look at this and you start to think to yourself, this is kind of, you know, what maybe in the past was a derogatory term, but we'll call it goofy strength. This is a guy that possesses some really goofy strength. And when you start to factor in guys that have this real genetic gift of strength, and you try to put them against guys that really build their strength, you may find that gift, that genetic gifted strength, it wins out a lot. I mean, it really does. You know, in anything that you do, you can build up the strength of your potential. But once you reach your potential, it's hard for you to go past that. Now, a guy like Rob Vidgen, who doesn't do a lot of traditional strength training, maybe he hasn't met his potential. Now, listen, we do know that Rob went over in May to East versus West. He did compete. He competed against Zurab over there. He had a little bit of trouble with Zurab. Zurab certainly was a better man that day. I'm not so sure that inactivity didn't play a lot of role in that. Again, I haven't seen Rob very active on the world arm wrestling stage since his wall days. That's not a dig at Rob. Rob is a superhuman, man. That guy's crazy strong. But when you're not active, sometimes inactivity hurts you as well. Just because your strength is not as fine-tuned in as it should be. And I think that was a wake-up call. Zurab went over there and won the first 3 matches. It was a 3-0 super match. And I think Rob kind of got a wake-up call that if he's going to stay in the sport, he needs to be relevant in terms of staying active, staying training. One of the real classic Rob Vidgens is that he gets real angry and real upset. I like to call it him hulking up. I mean, back in the day, the Hulkster would take a shot to the back of the head, and he would turn around, and he'd have the crazy eyes, and he'd look at his opponent, and he'd take 3 more shots to the back and a couple chops to the front, and next thing you know, he's so pumped up, he's superhuman. Well, Rob has that same quality, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see that in the January event, where you do see Brandon Allen catching the first match. And then that sleeping bear, Rob Vidgen, wakes up and reintroduces to the world just how great he is. And when he did pull Zurab, it looked as if he was trying to get to that mental state on the second match. First match, he certainly lost. That second match, that intensity started kicking in. But I think when you're not in practice, or at least in tournament shape, as sometimes, it's just not enough, especially from a guy who's pulling as actively as Zurab had been. So, to me, this definitely opens up an interesting debate between these two. Rob, I'm sure, is going to come in somewhere in the 240 range. I think Brandon is going to pull whatever his weight is at that day. I have not seen any indication that either of these two are going to make a weight. Now, I could be wrong. I haven't seen it, though, but I think they're just going to pull at what their regular weight are, walking in on weight are at, excuse me. It kind of sounded weird, sounded like radar, but then where their weight are at that specific time. And once the arms get to the table, I don't think the weight is really going to be a factor. So certainly hats off to Rob Vigent. He's starting to do some promotion. That's going to help the knuckles up guys out there, the high five guys. Brandon Allen is always posting. He's he's just an awesome guy. I really don't have a much of an interaction with Rob. I've seen him at one wall one time. Didn't really create any kind of conversation with him. He was busy, and ultimately seemed like a pretty pleasant guy. So I don't have any kind of personal opinion on him other than he's a great arm wrestler. I do have a personal opinion on Brandon Allen. I think he's a great human being. I have had a lot of interactions with him. I'm proud to say that he's a huge proponent of arm wrestling and just a super person in general. You could see that in his posts. The man posts 20 stories a day. 2 of them are his and 18 are people that tag him. So someone like that certainly has a love for people and a love for the arm wrestling community. But folks, we want to know what your thoughts are. I mean, can Brandon Allen win one match? Will he win the first? And will that piss Rob off that he wakes that sleeping bear up and comes out of hibernation and just rolls through the next 3 to take the best of 5? Will Rob come in super pumped from the start, not leave any doubt out there, keep the door shut on Brandon Allen? And folks, we want to know, what do you think that this opens up the door for either of these two arm wrestlers? Does Brandon Allen look to get to the next level if he wins one against Rob? Or does Brandon need to go after more of the super heavyweight class where he's weighing in? Is Rob Vigent really setting himself up for another run at East versus West? Or maybe a King of the Table? Or perhaps a World Series of Arm Wrestling? Somewhere where there's some money to be made and some competition that's out there that's going to get him back into the conversation of the world best. Who knows? I mean, this is really an interesting matchup, and I like to call it a social media matchup. And I think we're going to see, folks, as time goes on, more and more of these social media matchups in which we find very popular individuals competing against very established individuals in a group effort to make an interesting, at least marketable match and put some eyeballs on the sport. So my answer is kudos to Rob, kudos to Brandon. We're going to follow these two guys more as we get into January. Certainly we'll look to keep updating you guys on their progress. And we hope to, really in all levels of interest of sport, that it's a great event. Both of these men pull great, but also both of these men leave without injury so that they can continue on in the sport and continue to press and build the sport around it. So, folks, that wraps us up December 8th. We are 17 days away from Christmas. Get your Christmas list together. Maybe it's a match for the new year. Talk to your promoters for those super matches. As always, though, if you've liked what you've seen and you want to see more of these stories, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, and the notification button. And folks, as always, we ask that you continue to train hard, you pull smart, and you lift safe out in the gyms and in your arm wrestling space. Folks, have a great weekend, and thank you for tuning in to Inside Arm Wrestling. Folks, if you like these stories and you want to see more, please hit the like button and subscribe to our page. Also hit the notification bell underneath the video so that way you're notified every time a new video comes out. And if you're on social media, specifically Instagram, go to the World Series of Arm Wrestling Instagram page. Please follow it. We'll try to follow you back, but it'll keep you up to date with all of the news and events in the world of arm wrestling.